Okay, peace, Moors. We were just Islam. We were just having a discussion, and we're just gonna go ahead and share this with the people. Just want to give honors first and foremost. Want to give much praise to the Most High, the Father of the universe, Allah. We also want to give honors and respect due to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. This is our divine prophet, and we want to give honors for bringing our divine creed and nationality.
To teach us how to love instead of hate, and for bringing all these Moors all over the world to nationality.
Yes, so we wouldn't even know this if it wasn't for Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and we want to give honors to the forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for preparing the way for the Prophet, and then, of course, honors to all the faithful Moors all over the world, to all the Moors out there putting in work. And what we were discussing was an instance where in history, in the Prophet's time, actually, I think in the early 1900s, when he started up the first Canaanite temple. So this is like in the 1913s, 15s, in that area, in that era. Okay, there was a Sudanese missionary who came to the United States, right? And he came to help to propagate Islam. And he clashed with the Prophet. Actually, at the time, he wound up going back east, back to Africa, and he went to the Islamic societies over there, and he petitioned to have a fatwa where, like, he wanted them to basically put Noble Drew Ali's prophethood, you know, to the test, like on trial, you know, like legit, like serious, like he's saying this guy's blasphemous, you know, he's claiming to be a prophet, and we need to, you know, bring him into order. And before he did that, you know, he had approached the Prophet Noble Drew Ali here in the Americas and tried to get him to stop. Well, at least that's all that we know, you know. But we know that he had approached them and that they had a correspondence. Okay, and so just wanted to talk about this because, of course, this is something that anyone who, you know, is an outsider would use to attack the movement, and even some people who are Moors or consider themselves Moorish Americans would bring up. In particular, there's some people like who are in the Facebook group. If you're online, join the group, facebook.com/groups/Moors in America, or you can just go to @Moors in America, and we have a like page on there. Like that page, and the group is on there too because it's connected to the groups. You can just go to the groups tab and you can join the group from there, right? And so there's a brother that's always like showing contradictory things, basically showing how the Arabic world did not approve of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And a lot of times that brother would show that, like, hey, from his perspective, Prophet, you know, wouldn't even have been able to go to Mecca. They would have, you know, wanted to basically kill him or shut him down, you know, stop the movement. And he said that you know, a lot of people like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wouldn't have been able to go there, which from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's perspective was a lie, because he had a picture actually of him and I believe his brother or one of his sons in Mecca making a Hajj, you know, and they both have the headdress, and I believe they're on camels. And I'll put that up on the screen so y'all can see that, so that, you know, he had actually been over there, and I forgot where he went, to Syria or something like that as well, but he went to Mecca and Medina and talked about it, and it was in the old Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Okay, so, you know, that kind of just shut that claim down. But back to the Prophet and the real reason why we're speaking on this. There was a piece written about this Sudanese missionary to the United States, Satti Majid, Sheikh al-Islam in North America, and his encounter with Noble Drew Ali, prophet of the Moorish Science Temple movement. And this was written by Ahmed Abu Shuk and R.S. Ofehe. Okay, and this is for Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Abu Salim. This is the brother who came over here from Sudan to commemorate his retirement as Secretary General of National Records Office, Khartoum. Khartoum is in Sudan, people. Okay, so and it's just going on in the introduction saying like in the late 20s, so it's a little later than I said, but I think they encountered each other on the East Coast, like in New Jersey when the prophet started the Canaanite temple. I could be mistaken about that, but it's saying in the late 20s there was an encounter, direct or indirect, we do not know for certain, between two figures from two very different traditions of Islam. The present article partially documents this encounter, presenting a tantalizing glimpse of African American Islams, and they're saying African American. We know that's a misnomer, so don't come at me. I'm reading using the words from these authors. Okay, so they probably don't really respect the movement, but it's saying African American Islam's earliest encounter with global Sunni.
To the people as slaves.
Yeah. So global
and like they're not supposed to be on this because they're supposed to be slaves.
And it's saying this is just a glimpse of African American Islam's earliest encounter with global Sunni Islam. And one of the things they refer to this as is American indigenous Islam, because the movement, Islamism as the prophet brought forth, even though we know this is actually ancient. This is closer to the ancient form of what Islam actually is, and Islamism, to be at peace, at one with everything. So this is getting you closer to it. But this is saying that, hey, this is what happened when a representative of Sunni Islam, Orthodox Islam, came over here, and when you actually read about the encounter, clashed with what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought, right? And it's saying this is on one side the Sudanese alim, the very model of Nile Valley Islam orthodoxy. On the other is an African American, a generation only removed from slavery.
So they're trying to call Noble Drew Ali an African American.
Yeah, but like, I'm gonna just keep going, because it also says an actor in the great northward migration that was transformed to African American worldview, as it was later transform world music. Okay, so they're like just basically painting a picture for you and saying that, hey, these people were only one generation removed from slavery, if that. Okay, and then this is their version of Islam clashing with the ancient. And they're saying that that's ancient. But we know there have been many changes, and even to the way that Sunni Islam was practiced at that time, especially in the 1900s. Okay, so the Sudanese Satti Majid Muhammad al-Qadi from Dongola, and the Moorish American, I'm going to go ahead and say that they say Timothy Drew, later known as the Prophet Noble Drew Ali from North Carolina. Okay, and then what happens is, it really just goes in explaining how he basically had gotten a copy of the Holy Seven Circle Koran, and was like, he was incensed, and he tried to hold court, with the prophet, as far as like speaking to him or debating with him about it, and he wanted the prophet to prove, his prophethood, and he also tried to take the prophet to court, within the United States system, and was unsuccessful. And eventually he wound up like losing his green card or whatever, not losing it like physically, but losing the ability to stay here in the United States. So he had to go back east, and he went back into the Islamic society there, and tried to bring up the charges against Noble Drew Ali. All right. Okay, so people will use this and try to say that this is this will be an attack. This would be something to try to invalidate the prophet. And the problem with that, is that people are leaving out a lot, or they don't know, what they're really saying. Because what this brother was doing, let me get his name again. All right, what the brother Ibrahim, just say Ibrahim Salim, what Ibrahim was doing, was setting up Islamic societies. Satti Majid Muhammad, sorry. So what Satti Majid was doing was setting up Islamic societies in the United States, Islamic corporations. This wasn't just some unorganized, like, oh, we're just going to come over here to help wake up the people. Right. We care about them. We want them to get the light. We want them to get closer to Allah. Yeah. We're just going to go all over the world just for free, just telling the people the good news about Allah and encouraging people to learn Arabic and things like this. No, it was not like that. Yes, exactly. So
for
this
a business.
Yeah, so this is not just some labor of love that we just go on our own dime and we just gonna go all over the world. We come all the way to America because they have to know this wasn't just some labor of love. And I'm not saying that the brother wasn't passionate and that he wasn't, you know, serious about what he's doing. I'm not saying that or suggesting that in any way. I'm being real and realistic. They're setting up societies like the sister was just saying. They're setting up missions, okay? Real, legit, you know, missions that have actually been incorporated, you know, set up structurally properly with the local government, which would have been the United States in this case, okay? And it's to set up a system so that the people who are coming to Islam can now go through this Islam, which is connected to their corresponding organizations in Sudan, in Chad, in Egypt, in Mecca, in all these different places, right? So it's not being done for no reason. There's a hierarchy and a structure that's actually set up so that we can get paid. And I'm not saying that it's not to also spread Islam and to help enlighten people. No, I'm being real, and you have to be real. When you set up something and you go through and you do the structure and organization the proper way that is set up through the different, you know, jurisdictions, and you have it set up like that, you're not just doing this for no reason, okay? So there's a reason why. You're going to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and he's got this indigenous form of Islam, okay? And you're saying, well, hey, this is ours, and we need you to come through us. And he's saying, well, no, I don't need to. That's where the real problem comes in. Because it's like, well, hold up. He's setting up his own temples. He's got his own structure set up. He's got his own way of propagating Islam. He's got his own, you know, the charters that he's giving out, and they're coming through him. And that's where the real problem was. You're seeing the movement is growing, and there's over 100,000 people, you know, and they have thousands of members all over the country, and it's spreading like wildfire, and they're going through him. And so there's no funnel that leads back to whatever Islamic society, you know, you have in, you know, Mecca or wherever, you know, the brother's headquarters was. Okay, because trust me, and I'll get to this. I'm scheming. I'm scanning back through this document to get the names of, like, you know, some of the organizations that the brother set up. But I'm saying this to say that I actually read this, and no, the brother wasn't just coming over here unorganized, just, hey, I'm gonna come over here and tell people about Islam. No, that would be foolish. He's setting up an organization. Is he the head of the organization? No, he's an officer in it. And he even has people to answer to that were, you know, over him in the hierarchy. So he's setting up an organization that links back to Egypt, that links back to Mecca and these other places. And so what eventually happened was that, you know, the brother, like I said, he couldn't stay in the United States anymore. I'm not sure why. And when he was back in Egypt and Sudan, he was still receiving, in many ways, welfare or receiving payments, you know, from the Americans who had converted to Islam and who had joined through his organization. So he was still receiving, you know, payments and subsidy. You know, he was basically, you know, that's how he was able to carry out. I think he had a publication, like a newspaper or something like that. So that's one of the ways the brother was still able to carry on, you know, what he was doing when he had to go back, when he had to leave the country. All right. And so the reason I'm sharing this, of course, is because, like, that was where the real issue and problem came in. Our prophet came to us to connect us back. You know, we don't convert to Islam. We're going, you know, we're correcting ourselves. We're coming back to honor our forefathers and our foremothers. All right. And he set up an organization where we don't have to go through the Vatican or anyone else, you know, to propagate the faith, to share the message, to get it across, to set up other missionaries, you know, to spread this. It's going through the original temple, the Moorish Science Temple of America. And that's where the real problem came in. Okay? And that's the real issue. And so people, you know, that would take this and run with this and don't even have all of the information. They don't even understand what was really going on at the time. You know, that's a shame. You know, you can't just take stuff and run with it. All right. And once again, I'm not knocking the brother, you know, Satti Majid, you know, for what he did, or saying that he's not authentic, because, you know, what he came to do is what, you know, his mission was. He's not from here. He's coming and he's bringing the form of Islam as he was raised, as he believes, you know, probably, you know, wholeheartedly. This is what's true. But one thing is that what he brought did not correct the position that our brothers and sisters and that we found ourselves in. It did nothing about our nationality. It did nothing about the fact that we had our nationality stripped from us, that we're in a position where the words black and African American, Negro are incendiary. You look at legally what these things imply for you, and it's appalling. It is beyond appalling. You know, it's ridiculous and it's dangerous to remain in this position. You're in a permanent slave class. You're at the bottom of the caste system. And so that wasn't his mission. You know, he couldn't get you out of that. He couldn't even advise you on how to get out of that, because there's no knock to him. He may even not have a good understanding of it, because you would have to be from here to truly understand, you know? Okay? And so there's no knock to anyone else. That's not a knock on him or anyone. You know, this, it's just that Islam is practiced in Mecca. It's practiced in the East for the most part. This is not, you know, this is not going to be for your earthly liberation. Okay? It's not going to help you with your present situation. It's not going to do anything about the police gunning, you know, our people down in the streets. The lynchings that were occurring out in the open at the time when the Prophet was here, it would do nothing for that. There's nothing that it could do for that. And that's just the truth. Okay? It's no knock. It's just the truth. And it didn't do anything about pointing out the fact that legally they have you in a slave position and they're keeping you there, and you are willingly going along with it now. It didn't point that out. It didn't do that to you. Okay? So you can't attack the Prophet, because he came for your spiritual and earthly salvation. It's both in there. It's entwined in there, because he is legit. He came to us. How can you be a prophet for us when in the Quran it says that the Prophet will come to you speaking the language of the people? We didn't speak Arabic, and it would be difficult to learn it, and especially to gain fluency in that language, because you don't speak it over here, and you rarely hear it spoken here, you know? And that's the truth. To actually get fluent, you have to be able to speak it and immerse yourself into the culture and be into it on a daily basis. It would be very difficult to do here, okay? So that's not our language right now at this point in time. Doesn't mean that you didn't have ancestors maybe who spoke it at one point in time, but as now, no. So we truly have a prophet who came to us in the language that we could understand, and who came for our earthly and divine salvation. No one can attack the actual message in the Holy Koran, the 7-circle Quran, about your connection to the Almighty. You're connected to everything, and it tells you this, and it shows you this, and shows you how to connect and how to do this consciously. Okay? It explains everything. And then also goes in about the actual real physical thing that you're dealing with right now on this level, in this dimension. Okay? Can't attack it. So it's kind of beyond me why people would go in about this. Like, if that was true, like I said, the brother said that Honorable Elijah Muhammad couldn't go to Mecca, and he's got the pictures there, and he wrote about it in his newspaper. So that kind of shuts that down. So but that just shows you that it would have meant nothing to me if there was any validity to that, which there isn't, that the Prophet couldn't have gone to Mecca. You know, because it's like, okay, and they doing nothing for us. Oh, well. But it's not true. It's not true. Okay? And so, like, the brother, though, Satti Majid, he came over here. He did some work, you know. He think he took a newspaper to court, try to force them to publish his articles or pay, you know, it says $200,000 in damages for because I believe they had something incendiary about Islam, and he, you know, he stood up for that, right? And that's cool. That's cool. He's doing what he was supposed to do, okay? But as far as, you know, actually coming to us and you know, something for our liberation, like something like that, he did nothing. And you got to think, like, the entire time, like, organizations such as the Nation of Islam were always being recruited, you know, to come to Mecca, to come, you know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they're always telling them, hey, send your people here, send your best to us to be educated, you know. And, like, if he actually did anything like that, it would have been the reason why people like his son, you know, actually wound up setting up an official American Muslim organization. And he tried to convert the actual Nation of Islam into that, you know. And when he's setting up an American Muslim organization, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's something like that, you know. And so when he sets this up, you have to go look at the structure and see how it's set up, because more than likely it links back to, you know, Mecca. It links back to Egypt, or some Islamic society over there is getting paid, okay, from this, because then he's getting Americans to, you know, convert to Islam, and they're paying. I'm not saying that it's just all about money, but look, we're just being real. It's a business, okay? So he, you know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son, I believe Warathin Muhammad, he sets up the American Muslim Association, whatever it was called, and you know, it's got to be linked to an Islamic society over there, an actual business organization. And so there's a hierarchy, and there's a way for them to get paid. And like, okay, we have no problem with you now. You're official. You have our you have our seal of authority. You know, you're legit. Anyone else, they're not legit. Why? Because you're not connected to us, dude. That's why. Because we're not getting paid. That's what it's about. You know, they had no problem with Warathin Muhammad because he set up an organization that's connected to us over here in the East, and we're getting paid from it. So he's cool. He's legit. You know, and that's basically what it is. Now, what's not documented in this thing that I was reading, okay, from Satti Majid Muhammad, it's not saying that he approached the Prophet and asked him to, you know, come through his society, you know. It says the English version of the Jamia Kariya seems in fact to have been the African Muslim Welfare Society. Okay, so he set up the Welfare Society, the African Muslim Welfare Society in Pittsburgh in 1928. And I think he set up several other ones too throughout the country. All right, so if the problem would have come that, okay, the Prophet is not going through his society to get his, you know, his charter or whatever to propagate Islam. That's where the problem really came in. Okay? You know, this document focuses on, like, he was so concerned with the Quran that he brought, like, he's got his own Quran and he's claiming to be a prophet. And that, I'm sure that has something to do with it too. But now, the real problem is that he didn't go through him. He's got his own charters. You know, he's got his own temples. He's not, you know, connected to us in any way. He's completely cutting us out. That's where the real problem came in. Okay? Nobody else is talking about that. Okay, but if you go through, you look at the history, you try to put it in the proper context, then you can see that. And that's what I'm doing. So if you want to do that yourself, that's why I gave the title to this at the beginning. So you could go through and read this. Then you can go through and look at other documents from that time period to make the connection for yourself. Okay, but that's where the real issue would have came from. You know, just like it says in here, he established the first Moorish Science Temple in Newark in 1913. Others were later found in Pittsburgh and Detroit. Well, hey, he had the African Muslim Welfare Society in Pittsburgh, and you think he wouldn't have known or been upset to find that there's a Moorish Science Temple right there in the same city, and they're not connected to him at all, and they're teaching Islam, and he's not getting any cut? Okay, that's where the real issue came from. And that's plain and simple. So no one can really attack that if you put this in the proper context. All right. You know, and then on top of that, you know, other organizations wound up coming out of the Moorish Science Temple, like the Nation of Islam, you know, with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And there's another one that's cutting them out completely, you know. They get no cut, and then it's growing, you know. It grows and becomes a huge, powerful organization that had the face, Muhammad Ali, you know, the greatest of all time, right, is a member. And he's through the Nation of Islam. That was a problem. But you see, the Islamic world embraced Muhammad Ali. They embraced him, right? Because he couldn't hate. Because he was too big and too popular, too powerful.
Because he was great.
He was great. So we're going to overlook all that. We love you. Okay? But they had a problem with the fact that they weren't getting a cut. That's it. That's all it is. And bragging rights. Okay? And it says, Satti says that he wrote to Noble Drew Ali and advised him to change his name and burn his book. And he probably got laughed at. Like, okay, this is not happening. He wanted Ali to prove his prophethood by performing miracles. That is, those miracles that only a prophet can perform. He then says that he approached the government personally. So then he tried to go sick the colonizers on him. Right? He's a foreigner, and he's gonna come over here and try to sick the colonizers on him.
The police.
Yeah. Try to get the police on him. You know, and like I said, it's no disrespect to him. It's just putting it in the proper context. So he's trying to get the government on him, since this man was bringing the Islamic faith into disrepute. And this document is like obviously like biased towards, you know, what Satti Majid was bringing and what he was doing. But that's okay, because even from reading this, you just with the brain, you know, with insight and on with, you know, hopefully with some type of historical background. If you hopefully you've read, you know, history and you've researched, so you have an idea of what was actually going on in the world, and especially in the United States at this point in time, that you can place this in a proper context. Okay, so it's like, yeah, it says the U.S. government, Department of Justice, we are told, referred Satti to the men of knowledge and religion as the suitable people to deal with such matters. Satti somewhat lamely concludes his accounts by saying that he continued to raise the issue of Ali's claim in the newspapers. And it's just going on. He tried and he failed to, you know, take Noble Drew Ali down in here to try to end him for what he was doing. Okay? And he claimed that in writing the Quran and in claiming prophetic status, however defined, Prophet Noble Drew Ali was outraging the Orthodox Muslim sensibilities of Satti Majid. He was upset about this. It is unreasonable to expect the latter to have been sensitized to the African American need to create alternative worldviews and their receptivity to such currents as Freemasonry, Garveyism, and similar. So he's saying that even this document is saying that it's not even reasonable to expect him to understand the plight that we were going through, and why we would need a prophet like this that he would see as blasphemous. You know, he doesn't even understand. It's like, dude, you're coming from a completely different area. You know, you have your own issues over there that you need to take care of, actually. You know, it's not like you guys are living all high and mighty and wonderful in Sudan and Egypt. Okay, but you got your own issues, and you're coming over here, don't even understand what we're going through and trying to end what we're doing, and it didn't work.
Didn't even try to understand.
So it says,
just sitting here to cause confusion.
Basically, and it says Satti reacts in the appropriate Sunni Muslim way. He seeks a fatwa, that's what I was talking about earlier, from his would-be alma mater, al-Azhar in Cairo. So, you know, this is where he went to school, al-Azhar in Cairo in Egypt, and he's condemning Ali. He wants them to, you know, to hold a fatwa, you know, to condemn him for saying that he's a prophet and writing his own Quran. He travels to Cairo, presents a formal istitfa, request for a fatwa or judicial opinion, which he duly receives. And look, I'm all for being multilingual, you know. A gente fala português e pouco espanhol. Yeah, Japanese também. I mean, you know, we speak other languages too, and that's cool, all right? But I'm just be honest, like, I'm not living in Brazil anymore, so I'm not really fluent in Portuguese, even though I can speak it and understand it and You know, probably to the average person, I'm fluent because I can handle myself. But you're not going to be fluent in Arabic because it's very difficult to become fluent in Arabic unless your parents speak Arabic, because maybe they're from, you know, Africa, the Middle East, or, you know, and you're growing up with that in your house. All right? You're one of these so-called African Americans. You're Moorish American. That's not your reality. You know, now some cases it may be. That's not your reality. You're not going to get fluent in it. It's just more work. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. That's cool. That's wonderful. But these are things that make it even more difficult. The brother came to us in our own language. He is the prophet. This, even in the Quran, it says that the prophets will come to the people speaking their own language. How can you knock that? It's in the Quran. The interest in the, I can't even pronounce this, istifta, lies in Satti's summation of what he thought was Ali's doctrinal position. Although it is for specialists in African American Islam, they keep saying African American, to evaluate this further, our impression based on Wilson, Lincoln, and others is that Satti does not too grievously misrepresent, and they keep saying Noble Drew Ali. It's the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The latter did write a book entitled the Holy Koran. He did in some way regard himself as a Sharif. He did proclaim a new revelation out of Morocco, the land of the Moors, and he did claim to have traveled and been with the ulama of various Muslim countries. In other words, on the basis of what we know about Ali's doctrinal position, the charges from Satti's perspective were not false. So, you know, like, I just wanted to share this because, you know, I'm not knocking what Satti Majid did. He did what he was supposed to do, but even this book, this document, this bias towards him is letting you know that, hey, he couldn't even have truly understood what we're going through. It's unreasonable, in their own words, to expect him to understand the plight of the African. They call you African American in here, but it's unreasonable to expect him to understand the plight of the Moorish Americans. You know, it's just unreasonable. He couldn't. He don't really care. And the Islam that he's bringing is not really truly for your salvation. Okay? He's setting up, because America is the melting pot. Everybody wants to get a hand in here. Okay? You're coming from China. You're getting a hand in here. You have all these people who are selling goods to Americans. People coming from, like, okay, well, China, they make goods for everyone now, right? But, you know, especially for America, you ship them over here to make money, okay? And what do? Like, you know, Koreans, Vietnamese or whatever, you're coming over here, you're doing something, you're doing nails, you're selling black hair care products, right? You're getting your foot in here, something you can do to get a piece of this pie, all right? And from a religious perspective, it's business, man. It's business. Don't be foolish out here. We're adults, so we have to be realistic. It's business. You're getting your foot in too. So Satti Majid is coming over here to set up the missions that are connected to whatever organizations in the Middle East. And they're mentioned in this document. I'm just not looking at it at this point in time. Right? So they're connected. And it even says in here how, like, okay, when he had to go leave the country, you know, he was still, it's saying, like, right here, okay, he never returned to America. Since he never returned to America, there's no reason to suppose that the fatwas were ever seen there, right? Nevertheless, Satti continued to correspond with his African American followers and apparently produced a journal from Cairo that was sent to his followers in America, and then it was in Arabic. So it's like, how helpful is that? This emerges from the various letters from his American followers that are reproduced in the present article and it's got an example of it. But anyway, so the implication is that some of his followers mastered Arabic but wanted the material translated into English. So he's sending them his newspapers in Arabic. And they're like, please put this in English. In the same letters, there's reference to local conflicts between Satti's followers and the Maori Jains. The latter is yet to be identified. Wow. So he's setting this up for the Islamic society that he was representing back in Cairo or wherever. And so there's a money, trail. That people are sending money and it's going there. And that's what the real issue was about, okay? That's it. Plain and simple. There are two final things. First, Satti's attempts to have himself recognized and appointed as al-Azhar's official missionary. So al-Azhar is one of the names, and this he wanted to be their official missionary or daya to North America. An attempt that failed, as the following letter from Mustafa al-Maraghi decisively shows, and it's got it written in Arabic. We declare that he does not have the scholarly qualifications to be appointed to a religious mission such as al-Azhar and is accustomed to send abroad. All that happened is that he informed us that he had appointed himself to defend Islam in North America and had had contact with Islamic associations. So even within his own organization, he failed in trying to become the head of the missionary. All right. And this is, once again, it's not attacking him. It's just putting it in the proper perspective. All right.
Yeah, because
and
people
then
like to use that information to, counter attack, the information that we bring as far as what Noble Drew Ali said and did.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy. Right. It's foolish. Like, why are people doing this? It doesn't make any sense because
Noble Drew Ali taught us to love and not to hate. He brought us our national and divine creed, and with that, Moorish Americans have higher standards, have applied principles that we stand on. And, all the negativity and hatred and, confusion is not allowed.
Exactly. And I still it's beyond me, even, and I'm not really going to focus on that, but it's beyond me why someone would try to, prop up the Orthodox version of Islam, as we're told, over what we have. It makes no sense when this does nothing for you. This does nothing for you. It completely ignores your specific plight. All right? No matter what, you have to correct the status that you're in. You have to do something about this caste system that you're at the bottom of. Nothing foreign will do anything for that, and it can't. They ignore it, not out of hatred, not because they don't care about you or like you, because they can't. It's not their problem. It's not an issue. And it definitely wasn't an issue, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was alive. Okay? It wasn't an issue. All right? Europeans hadn't colonized the Americas. It wasn't an issue. Okay? So what we have now, the predicament that we're in, is something that has to be corrected. And the Prophet Noble Drew Ali came to do that, and he spoke the language, of the people, as it says in the Quran. And so there's really no attack on this. There's no way you can come at that. It makes no sense. And I was just sharing this not to discredit the brother Satti Majid, just putting it in the proper context. Okay, he was, attempting to set up the mission that's connected to the organization that he was in, and he was receiving payments from this, and that organization was receiving payments, and that's where the real issues would come in, from the Moorish Science Temple and giving out their own charters, their own organization. This, you're cutting out the middleman. We don't even need you. Seriously. That's like you coming, setting up your own thing, and then someone who's somewhat connected to it, like, well, hey, you're using one of our names, so we need to get paid. You're using the word Islam. Islam is ours. And then you're saying, no, you don't own that. How can you own that? Allah. No, you're not Allah. You can't own Islam. We're practicing it as we see fit for our salvation. And what you have won't save us.
Salvation. That's what Islam is for.
Yes. And so this is what we're doing. You can't tell us what to do, and you can't attack us. And they still want to get paid. And so that's what that is. All right. Plain and simple. And it says there's a story or tradition that Satti was prevented from returning to the States because he seems to have been perceived by the FBI as a potential ally of Japan. Seems possible to deduce from letters sent to him that he's seen by his American followers in an increasingly Garveyist mode, as references to Ethiopia and Japan make clear. So he was attempting two things: one, to attain official al-Azhar recognition, which he didn't; the other, to find financing for a renewed mission to America, as his letter to a relative shows. And he failed to do that. He failed to gain al-Azhar's approval, and being seemingly prevented from returning to America, he failed, being able to come back. He died in the Sudan in 1963. He returned there in the 40s and died there in 63. So he wasn't able to come back. But also it says in here, like, while he was there, he was still receiving finances from that organization that he had set up. Okay? And so that's, like, clear. People need to understand that. And all these, any future attacks, they're futile. That needs to be understood. The real purpose of trying to bring, the fatwa against the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is because he's setting up his own organization, brother.
And it was competition at the time.
Exactly. Everyone wants to get their hand in there, get a piece of the pie. It doesn't mention that in this book, okay, this thing that I'm reading. All right? And he wrote to, let's see, who was this that he wrote to? It's got a letter here. It's in Arabic. That's translated. We're giving the official al-Azhar translation where he asked for a fatwa. Okay? And it says, to their excellencies, the ulama of the pure Islamic faith in Egypt, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, what say you, may your virtue endure, about a man currently living called Noble Drew Ali, the meaning of his name being the prophet who is linked to the house of prophecy, Ali. Okay, so guess what? Prophet Drew Ali's name means something. He wasn't just making this stuff up. Alleging that he is the prophet promised at the end of time, who was announced by Jesus, upon whom be peace, and who composed the book and called it the Holy Koran. The Holy Koran. The Holy Koran. The Holy Koran. The meaning of Holy Koran is the Holy Koran, which was revealed at Mecca to our Lord Muhammad, upon whom be blessings and peace. However, there is not to be found in this book of his any surah of the noble or any hadith of our Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace and blessings. Nevertheless, he speaks about the messenger of God and seal of the prophets, and about with harsh words for which God sent down no authority. This book contains the following. And he says, first, he is a prophet whose coming was promised and who was announced by Jesus, upon whom be peace. Secondly, is that he is whom John mentioned in his vision in the 6th chapter. And so he's going in, and he says, thirdly, that the Islam that was brought before him was not true Islam. And he claimed that he had garnered his knowledge in the city of Fez, and that he had met with leaders of the Islamic religion there and in Egypt, the Hijaz and Iraq, and that all the scholars had testified that he is the prophet promised at the end of time. He began to preach this to the world. Then he said the secret of his prophecy was Jesus, peace be upon him. His adoption of Islam was in former times, and that they had hidden this from the world. The object of worship in Islam has no eye with which it sees, and no intelligence with which it reasons, nor any ear with which it hears, nor does it have power. It is nothing but fantasy, shot through hocus pocus. This is what he put abroad of his unbelief and hypocrisy in the book mentioned above, and this is but a small part of the large whole. We ask your grace to give us a fatwa about this, for we are sorely in need of it. May God keep you as a support of the pure religion and its believing sons, the servant of the Islamic community in North America, the poor one of him most high, Satti Majid Muhammad al-Qadi. And so, like, he sent fatwas, like he sent these requests for fatwas to several different Islamic heads. And he did this after, like, what he tried to do in the United States failed, when he tried to take him to court and try to get the government to shut him down. Didn't work. And so, like, I'm just sharing this to say, like, the real beef, the real problem is that he set up his own Islamic organization that was indigenous to the Americas and spoke specifically to the American, to what we were going through, which he couldn't understand. And it also cut them out of the picture. And that's where the big problem was. And so...
Also, does he see, like, did he see... That's not, of course, not in this book. Everything he tried didn't succeed, you know?
Of course not, because he tried, until the end,
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, hello.
So it didn't work. I mean, like, yeah, it's spiritually, if it didn't work, guess what? It wasn't supposed to. He wasn't supposed to shut him down. Because if he was, it would have worked.
So he was just dwelling in his ego.
And yeah, he wanted to be seen as the head of the missionary, and that didn't work. So he's not even being remembered, really. You know, like the Prophet Noble Ali, he's exalted, he's respected. And he's also respected abroad. There's people who understand who he is and know about him. Okay?
Understand the necessity of what he brought to, you know, Moorish Americans in North America.
All right. So I just wanted to share that because, you know, we do hear people attacking it sometimes, and you know, this needs to be just placed in a proper perspective and understood. And
it's good to question. You're supposed to have questions. It's good to not accept anything that you're given as truth. That's what we're supposed to do, because Noble Ali says study self and study self again and again and again. It's like you have to do your research. But do not come attacking something before you have done the research, because then that makes you look like a fool, incompetent, and no one will listen to you after that.
Okay, and I'm gonna play this. This is
وما أرسلنا من رسول إلا بلسان قومه ليبين لهم فيضل الله من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء وهو العزيز الحكيم.
That's from Surah 14:4, and I just played that. The Yusuf Ali translation says, "We sent not a messenger except to teach in the language of his own people, in order to make things clear to them. Now Allah leaves straying those whom He pleases and guides whom He pleases, and He is exalted and powerful of wisdom." Okay, we sent not a messenger except to teach in the language of his own people, in order to make things clear for them. Okay, the Sahih International Version says, "And we did not send any messenger except speaking in the language of his people to state clearly for them." Okay, so like it doesn't, you know, matter how that's translated, it's letting you know that, you know,
amongst you will come your prophet.
Basically, okay, all right. So that should just end it right there. Like, we're not speaking Arabic over here. You have to be able to be understood clearly and plainly, even by people who are not well educated. Okay, to understand Arabic, I mean, to be a typical one of these people misnomered African American, you have to be educated, you know, well traveled or something, to be speaking Arabic fluently to the point where you just understand that clearly, like I'm speaking right now, and you understand this. Okay, so he was the prophet. And, you know, people that are attacking it, some people are doing it because that's their job. They were put forth by some government entity to do this. And some people are just doing it because they don't understand. As much as well-read as some people think they are, they really just don't understand at the end of the day. Because it's like, look, the plight that we were in, this whole slavery status thing, the black acts, the black laws, the Negro laws are real. And they're heinous, and they're real, and you can look them up for yourself and see. These things were established in states all over, okay, the entire nation. This is real. And the prophet came to correct this, to get us out of this status, and for our spiritual enlightenment, okay? No one else came to do this. No one. That's it. So yes, we give honors to the prophet. That's why we give honors, you know, every time, because this is powerful and this shuts down anything, and I'm not trying to hear anyone trying to attack that. All right, it would be ridiculous to attack it. Okay, so that's it on that. Peace to everybody out there. Make sure you share this, get this message out, because I know there's people who are new to this information, and so when they hear the attacks, they don't really understand. You have to put it in the proper perspective. Trust me. I mean, even in this book that I read, it said, hey, you know, it would have been unreasonable to expect this Satti Majid Muhammad to really understand what these Moorish Americans were going through. Okay? And we had needs. We have, you know, different things specific to us that the Prophet addressed. And that's it. Point blank. Plain and simple. So anybody else trying to come with something else can kick rocks. You know, you can kick rocks all the way back to Arabia or wherever you came from. Because if you're attacking it, there's no respect at all. But if you understand, we have a specific plight, cool, it's all love. All right. And even in that, I say peace and love. No attack to anyone. It's just, look, we know